Join me as I dive into the story of the ugliest god who transformed into a beauty and shocked everyone. Can I uncover the secrets behind this incredible transformation? In the realm of mythology, gods and goddesses are often depicted as perfect beings. But what if I told you there's a god who defied these norms? One who is considered the ugliest of them all. A god so repulsive that mortals trembled at the mere mention of their name. This god's story is one of self-discovery, transformation, and ultimately, redemption. The concept of beauty has always been subjective. In ancient societies, it was often tied to physical appearance. A person's beauty was seen as a reflection of their divine favor. In the case of our god, their physical appearance was so grotesque that it affected their worship and influence. Followers were scarce, and those who did worship them did so out of fear rather than admiration. The god's ugliness was seen as a curse, a punishment for some unknown transgression. The god's temple was often deserted, with only a handful of devotees daring to approach. The priests and priestesses who served the god were ashamed of their own association with them. The god's influence was limited, and their powers were seen as weakened due to their physical appearance. It was as if the god's ugliness had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The societal pressure to conform to traditional beauty standards took a toll on the god's self-esteem. They began to question their own worth, wondering if they were indeed flawed and incurably ugly. This self-doubt seeped into their relationships with other gods and goddesses, who would often mock and ridicule them behind their backs. The god's ugliness had become a convenient excuse for others to belittle and marginalize them. In the shadows of Mount Olympus, our god was born from the primordial chaos, their existence a result of the god's own experimentation. As they grew in power, they began to take on a life of their own, but their appearance was unlike anything seen before. Their body was a mass of twisted limbs and bulging eyes, their skin a deep mottled green. The gods and goddesses who had created them were horrified, abandoning their creation to fend for themselves. Mortals, too, were repelled by the god's appearance, and they soon became a solitary figure shunned by all. The gods' early years were marked by loneliness and despair. As they aged, their ugliness became more pronounced, and they began to resent the gods who had brought them into being. The gods' anger and frustration simmered beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed, and then something changed. The gods stumbled upon a magical spring, its waters rumored to have the power to transform even the most hideous of creatures. With nothing to lose, the god bathed in the spring, and as they did, their body began to shift and contort. Their twisted limbs straightened, their bulging eyes shrunk, and their mottled skin transformed into a radiant glow. The god's ugliness was replaced by breathtaking beauty, and they emerged from the spring a reborn deity. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Mortals who had once shunned the god now flocked to their temple, mesmerized by their beauty. The other gods and goddesses who had mocked and ridiculed them were stunned into silence. The god's transformation was so profound that it changed the very fabric of the mythology itself. The gods' newfound beauty brought them increased influence and power, and they soon became one of the most revered deities in the pantheon. As we reflect on the gods' journey, we're reminded that beauty is indeed in the eye of the beholder. The gods' transformation was not just physical, it was a metamorphosis of their very soul. They had finally found acceptance, not by changing who they were, but by embracing their true self. The story of the ugliest god who became beautiful serves as a powerful reminder that change is always possible, and that acceptance can come from the most unexpected places. What do you think about beauty and transformation in mythology? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're interested in exploring more fascinating stories, be sure to check out our next video, where we'll be diving into the world of mythological creatures.